Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mayor Fatemi. We got a packed show lined up for you guys today. Starting right off the top, we're going to preview the play-in matchups today. Two teams in both conferences still looking for their playoff opponents in the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. 2 games tonight to decide who they will face. So we're going to preview both of those games. Also, the New Orleans Pelicans firing their head of president of basketball operations, Willie Reed, and hiring Joe Dumars. We're going to get into that about the New Orleans Pelicans. And we're also going to give some playoff predictions as well to close out the show. My playoff predictions for what to expect through the rest of the playoffs from start to finish, or for the first round in general, not the start to finish, but for the first round, we're going to discuss all of that as well. Pack show lined up for you guys today. It's been a long week, but we got a long weekend ahead of us, and happy holidays to everybody. Thank you guys for being here. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But getting right into it here, we're going to start off the show previewing 2 playing games tonight. Starting in the East, of course. We got to save the better one for last in the West, because we've been over that, the Wild Wild West. But in the East, to start, we got the Miami Heat taking on the Atlanta Hawks. I personally think this game is going to be, I don't know how this game is going to go. I know the Heat are going to win this game. I'm picking the Miami Heat to win this game. But in what fashion? Are we going to see a similar fashion to what we saw a week ago from the Bulls and the Miami Heat in the regular season, with the Bulls winning that matchup and it remaining a close matchup? Or are we going to see the Miami Heat team in the playoffs, like they did to the Chicago Bulls 2 days ago, came into Chicago and just rumped them, just didn't hit the gas pedal and never look back, just bum rushed them, is the only way I can really describe it. Is that the Miami Heat team that we're going to see? Eric Spoelstra will scheme these guys up. Tyler Herro played phenomenal in their last game with 38 points. Bam Adebayo with 15 points and 12 rebounds. I really think it's going to come down to the offensive play of Tyler Herro to decide how this Miami Heat's offense will look and it will define their success, really. Because at the end of the day in the playoffs, I've mentioned it before, you need a number one option on the scoring side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, to get you a bucket when you need it. And Tyler Herro proved to be that guy against Chicago Bulls. Can he continue to do that? That is to remain to be seen. On the other side with the Atlanta Hawks, we saw them get absolutely rumped by the Orlando Magic, cutting the lead to 2 points to start the fourth quarter, and then the fourth quarter just being a complete and utter disaster, being the only way to describe it. Finishing the game as a 25-point loss, when it was a 2-point game going into the fourth quarter. That's really all you need to know about how this game ended, because unfortunately, it's just unfortunate, but that's the way it ended up finishing. Orlando in that game led by Cole Anthony. Also Trae Young being ejected in that game. It's going to be interesting to see how he responds from that to not ticky-tacky, but frustration, technical fouls being called on him back-to-back in the span of about 5 seconds, and he was tossed out of the game with about 5 minutes to play in that one. But yeah, I really don't know how. I personally think Bam Adebayo is going to have a massive game in this one. We saw him being limited a little bit going up against Nikola Vucevic, which was an outstanding matchup. Both Vucevic and Adebayo going off for double-doubles, both having 12 rebounds in this game. But yeah, Adebayo, who's going to stop Adebayo in this one? I think Clint Capella's time in the NBA has been a little He's not the same guy that he was, say, 2 or 3 years ago when the Atlanta Hawks went to the conference finals. But I don't think Clint Capella can handle Bam Adebayo tomorrow or tonight. I just don't see it. I think Bam Adebayo is going to have a field day in there, and it's just going to be. I obviously I want all these games to be competitive, especially because it's the playoffs. I want the games to be close as a fan of the NBA, but with the with my thinking cap and knowing how this season has gone on, I would not be shocked if this game is a blowout again. Similar to what we saw with Orlando, similar to what we saw Miami do to Chicago. I think it's just going to be another 15 to 17 point win for this Miami Heat squad, and they will advance to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round. But, yeah, switching gears to the other side with the Western Conference, I think this game, without a doubt in my mind, this game will be close. I promise this will be one of the games of the. This is one of the early slated games that we've had our eyes on since we heard. Well, regardless of how that Warriors Grizzlies game panned out, we knew this game was going to be very close. The Dallas Mavericks putting on a show in Sacramento. Continuing to show why they are so dominant. They're so dominant in the interior with their big men, with Daniel Gafford, Anthony Davis, P.J. Washington, Derek Lively. They proved why their height is. They can simply go up against anybody and be competitive against anybody because of how dominant they are in the paint. Nobody can really match them because nobody is built the way they are. You don't really see teams these days with about 4 different centers. If you want to count PJ Washington. PJ Washington's more of a power forward and a small forward. But between the 4 and the 5 positions, the Mavericks are easily the deepest team because with what I just mentioned. The Dallas Mavericks taking on the Memphis Grizzlies in this one. I really like the Mavericks in this one. I know the Memphis Grizzlies need this win. I know Ja Morant needs this win, especially if we want to see Ja Morant remain in Memphis. I think next season he has to win this game. If he loses this game, I think the ownership and the GM will move on from Ja Morant and look to trade him in the offseason. That is my personal opinion. If he loses tonight. If he does not make the playoff, it just continues to cement to ownership and the nearby around the NBA. There have been rumors of executive mentioning that they don't think Ja Morant is a star that you can build your team around, that he can win playoff series, that he can come up in big moments, especially in the playoffs. If Ja Morant loses this game, it will further cement that narrative. And I don't think, especially with the firing of Taylor Jenkins, and especially with the playoff disappointments that this team has put on over the last 3 years or so now. Yeah. Since 2022 when they lost to Golden State. 2023 when they lost to LA. Both of those series they held home court. This season they were in the 2 seed, falling all the way down to the 8. Losing the 7-8 matchup against Golden State, not being able to inbound the play with 5 seconds to go. Couldn't even get a shot off to have an opportunity to tie the game and bring it to overtime. This is the Memphis Grizzlies team that we're talking about here. And I think Desmond Bane is a shot maker. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is unbelievable in the paint in the interior as a defensive. He's one of the most underrated defensive guys in the league. But when it comes to Ja Morant, when it comes to the leader of this team, this team has proven that they have a young, strong core of guys, a young group. But they have not had a leader. And especially if he loses this game, I think it's going to put the final nail in the coffin for Ja Morant if he loses this game. He has to come out and prove, if he loses this game, he has to prove that he is not the reason why they lost this game. He has to go off if he goes off for 40 points, 8 to 10 rebounds, and 7 assists, I'll throw my hands up and say, okay. Because you can't put the blame on him at that point. He did the best that he can. But if you can definitively look at Ja Morant and say, you missed this play, you missed this play, you missed this play, similar to what happened in Golden State at the end of that game with 5 seconds to go when they couldn't inbound the ball. Flat out couldn't. With the other side, with Steph Curry getting the ball on every possession down the stretch, 3 possessions, especially inbound plays, cutting off 10 seconds off the clock. The ball was just being fed to Steph Curry because you knew you could trust him with the ball. You knew he would get open, and he got himself open. This is not what we're seeing from Memphis right now. And it's very troubling. I won't lie. It's sad to see because Ja Morant is personally one of my favorite players. He's been in the league for a while. He's still incredibly young. He's entering his prime right now. Do not get me wrong. But at some point or another, you have to show flashes of success, flashes of potential to prove your worth, prove that you can be one of the guys, that you prove that you can be a star and leader of this team. You already have off the court issues. You already have questions about being able to lead the team, questions with playoff performances, questionable playoff performances. Your team continues to disappoint come playoff time. At some point or another, you can't just continue to roll the dice. And the only way I can describe it is similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Produce the same show every single year, make it to the playoffs, and either miss the play or miss it by the skin of your teeth, or you make it and you get blown out in the first round. You just can't have that. And that's what it's been. That's a narrative going on in Memphis right now. That's what's gone on over the last 4 years or so. And I think ownership is tired of it. So I know there were rumors floating around that Taylor Jenkins was looking to fire or to move Ja Morant from Memphis, and there were rumors that possibly that was why Taylor Jenkins was fired in the midseason firing. Mind you, the Memphis Grizzlies were the 2 or 3 seed when Taylor Jenkins was fired. Just to put it a little bit into perspective right now. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Damian Lillard returning to Milwaukee. He's finally back in Milwaukee. His first opportunity there in the playoff. This is the Milwaukee Bucks' first opportunity with Damian Lillard on the Bucks for Giannis and Dame to play on the court together in the playoffs. It's going to be very interesting to see. We're going to cover everything about Damian Lillard, give a little bit of an injury update, how he looks, and what to expect from him come playoff time.